Hi everyone, Professor Hosmer here. You should be able to see my screen and hear me okay. If somebody can throw a message to the chat or shout out.
Good to go.
All right. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. I think that was Steve. Okay, it's just about 7 here on the East Coast, 4 o'clock Arizona time. We're going to get started. I thought I would kick off tonight with going over a quick solution to the week 13 assignment, which was the investigation of the MP3 ID3 assignment. So I'll just go through this really quickly for you. This is the script that you guys were working on, and I'm going to actually run it. We'll start by running it with eo.mp3 to extract the original images and the content. When I do this, it'll go out and collect all of the frames and data that is associated within the ID3 header, as I showed you guys last week. And we go back to week 13. We'll go to scripts and images. And so that produced 3 images, and it labels them EO. That was the original, that MP3-1, 2, and 3, because it doesn't have a name of the file, so I automatically name them within the app if you've actually played around with it. So that's the original that we started with. The second thing to do, obviously, is to come back and run this again. This time, we're going to use ES-MP3, which is the one that contains the hidden content. So if I run that one, this will just take a second to run through this. And then when we go back to that directory we were looking at, we're going to get a chance to see the images that were extracted and carved out from the Stegled one. The other thing that I did, and let me go back and show you that first before I get ahead of myself. So in this case, we have 4 files: ES1, MP3-1, ES, MP3-2, 3, and 4. So when we do that, we notice we have files, and we can look at those in obviously different ways. We want to look at the details of those. If we wanted to look at them as a list, we want to look at them extra large icons like I had it, you can kind of see them all. So did everybody get that far? Did everybody able to extract the images? Hang on, let me close my emails here. Did anybody have any trouble getting that far? In other words, being able to extract the images and run the script against the 2 different carrier files, the original and the one that has the hidden content? Let me bring up the chat window so somebody can answer me. No trouble. Okay, good. All right. So the second thing that I did is that I went back and just kind of a little trick. I went back and I wanted to remember there's information contained, in the headers that is a little bit different between the EO and ES. And what I did was I just copied that information and I put it into 2 files. So remember, Wing IDE can allow you to display whatever content you want, at least it's text content. So this was the EO text that came from the first EO file, and you notice there's not a lot of data in that first header information, and it shows that there were 3 attached pictures. So that's kind of an interesting initial hint. So then I did the same thing with ES. I grabbed that information from there, copied it to a file so I could compare them. And when I come down to look here, a couple things are immediately different. One is, as we saw in the file folder that I just showed you, the second file has 4 attached pictures instead of 3. Also, it has some additional information. The publisher, which is JP Hide and Seek, which is the program that I gave you within the D2L shell. So you had the Stego program that was used to hide the content, and it also has some information about encoding. Just kind of chose that particular frame with an ID3 to basically pass the 2 passwords that you're going to need, Rich and Jet. So based on that, now we're going to go take the next step, which is to try to extract the information from the file. So we have basically information. We have 4 images versus 3, and we have potentially the passwords that are rich in jet. So again, if I go back to that image, I won't go through this part of the exercise, but it's pretty straightforward. We certainly know that this image, es.mp33, did not exist in the original set. So that one is suspicious right off the bat. And then the other one that is suspicious is this es.mp3-4. If you compared that to the original, you would notice that they are, first of all, different sizes. If you took the next step and actually hashed those two, you'd find that they had a different MD5 hash or SHA hash, whatever you ran. But it was really actually a little simpler than that because they both have different file sizes. So we know that those are somehow different. So based on that knowledge, I can bring up JP Hide and Seek. And if I open, we'll do the saxophonist first. And now we're going to seek. I kind of gave you a demo of this in D2L last week on how to run this. But the question is, what do I use for the passphrases? Well, we have 2 that were encoded in there. We have rich and jet. So I happen to know this one was jet. So I'm just going to type jet and say OK. And I'm going to go ahead and I have to basically save that out. Now, I happen to know this is a JPEG. If you didn't know that, you'd have to figure that out, but I'm just going to say jet.jpg. And when I do that, it brings up the picture of the jet. So basically extracted this picture of the jet out of the image ES-MP33. So the second image in question was ES-MP3-4. So that one, I'm going to go back to JP Hide and Seek, and this application is a little finicky. So I typically always restart it every time I'm going to do this, just so that it doesn't crash in the middle or it doesn't work properly. So I'm going to go back to ES-MP3-4. I'm going to bring that in, and then I'm going to click Seek, and I'm going to type rich, R-I-C-H, R-I-C-H, and say OK. And this time I'm going to just say rich.text because it happens to be a text file. And so there's the text file, and it's a bunch of net worths, a bunch of rich guys. It's an old one. These guys make a lot more money now, but it was still a pretty big number. So that was the whole assignment. So the steps were you had to figure out which, had to carve out the images, you had to look at the 2 headers of the file to kind of determine what was going on. It gave it away that you were using JP Hide and Seek, but you could have found that out from the file itself. Then you had to figure out which images were different between between MP3, the original, and the MP3 stag. And then in order to do that, one was pretty easy because it didn't exist at all in the original. And we ended up with 4 images versus 3. And the second one, you had to do a little bit of work to basically figure out which one of those images changed from the original. And like I said, you could have done a simple size check on those 2 images, and you would have gotten different values. So that was last week's assignment, and I wanted to kind of go over it. I got a few questions during the week, and most of them were about how to basically figure out the passwords. And since there were 2 images and there were 2 words, I think everybody had at least when they sent me the messages, knew what the 2 words were, but weren't sure how to apply them. Any questions on last week's assignment before I jump into what we're going to do this week? So everybody got this, no problem, kind of walk through it. And then all you were supposed to do is put together a little report to kind of walk through how you approached the problem and what you discovered and that kind of thing. So any questions or comments on this assignment? Okay, did you guys find it fun, interesting, or you're getting to the end of this semester and you don't care anymore? So, okay, cool. All right, just wanted to make sure you're still there listening to me. That's cool. All right, great. All right, let's go on to this week. This is another in my opinion, kind of an interesting assignment. And it was interesting for me today because I typically go through the assignments to make sure nothing's changed or I have to make any changes to the assignment before I go into this one. And as usual, I didn't make any changes for you guys on the assignment, but of course, VirusTotal changed their interface to get your API key. So I had to update the slides talking about the new method. Luckily, their changes don't affect the library that we're using, but they do affect how you go get your key. So I'm going to walk through that. I'll talk about what all that means in a minute. So we want to talk about VirusTotal, and the whole concept behind VirusTotal was, and still is today, that a whole set of organizations, and you can do this yourself if you want, if you find something that is a piece of malware, let's say it's a file, or maybe it's not even a whole file, maybe it's something you captured on memory or whatever, that you discovered some sort of malicious software within the environment. Now, the definition of the malicious software is fairly broad. It could be things like viruses, it could be worms, it could be ransomware strings, it can be advanced persistent threats, and it also can be, let's say, potentially unwanted programs. We call them PUPs. So things that basically administrators in an organization might not want on your machine, and they may actually post them to VirusTotal as well to say, hey, this is a potentially unwanted program that you shouldn't be using in a corporate environment. So based on some of the things we've done just last week, can somebody name maybe a program that might be potentially unwanted if it was on a user's machine? Okay, how about JP hide and seek? Would that be something? There you go. Yeah, would JP hide and seek would not be probably something you'd want to find on a user's machine within your organization, because it means that they could, be hiding information and images and sending them out. Coupon clipping seem way too easy to those, from that perspective. So there's lots of these programs that are kind of unwanted within a corporate environment, or even a military environment, or an environment within a work thing that you wouldn't want. So what companies do that are involved in this business, they identify these files or the strings associated with those pieces of malware, APTs, etc., and they will post them to VirusTotal and provide information to VirusTotal. So this is a community-supported environment that was created a number of years ago, back in the late 2008 or 9, maybe even earlier than that. And then, of course, like many other things, it was acquired by Google back in 2012. But it is still today community supported, and people submit these identifiers indicating, hey, this particular file has or string is potentially hostile. You can access VirusTotal via the web at virustotal.com, and you can interact with it directly. So you don't need to use the application interface and write a Python script if you don't want to, let's say, check out a single file or something that you're concerned about. So you can access VirusTotal from the web. Not very useful, because you basically have to do it one file at a time, or one string at a time that you need to be able to provide it to, but you can do that interactively with VirusTotal even today. However, for our purposes, we'll be creating a simple VirusTotal client that can be accessed from Python. And the advantage of this, obviously, is we can then submit multiple files, one after the other, and get the results and basically examine those results. So if you imagine that you may have a scenario where you wanted to build a VirusTotal application that would allow you to basically scan a whole set of files in order to be able to determine if they were reported by anyone in the community that reported that particular file being there. Now, this is the part of VirusTotal that changed. I'm glad I checked it this morning. And in order to be able to use it in this manner that we're going to do this week, creating the simple VirusTotal client, you have to basically go to this website and you have to apply for an API key. I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the steps. You go through this, you can basically walk through it yourself. Just a couple of tips that I'll give you as you do this that sometimes will get people messed up. Also, if you already have a VirusTotal API key, it will work even though they've changed the process of generating the key from that perspective. So when you go to that API, when you go to that URL, you're going to come down to the Getting Started click, and then you're going to click on the Sign Up to VirusTotal Community, because you're going to basically be using the Community API in order to be able to do that, unless you want to pay them a lot of money and get the an upgrade to the professional version of this, which gives you just some more capabilities. But we don't need that for our application. You can sign up for the VirusTotal community version of this, and you will get your API key almost immediately, within a few minutes. So it doesn't take that long to go through this process. It's a little bit different than like Twitter, for example. If you're going for a Twitter API, you may take a couple of days to get a response from them. It's not immediate, but this is pretty much immediate. I did it today myself just to verify everything was working. I wanted to generate the new key based on that to make sure the libraries that you'll be using are there. Now, we'll talk about the libraries in a second. So once you go there and you say that I want to, again, click on the sign up for the VirusTotal, it's going to ask you a bunch of information. You got to give them your first and last name, your email address, your username. You got to provide a password. You got to click on yes. I read the VirusTotal terms of service, and basically the terms of service basically relate to how many requests that you can make during some period of time. And it's fairly significant. You can still do a lot of files on a daily basis if you wanted to process those. So it's not that restricted, but the other versions of this just give you more capability to look at more and more files. So you're going to fill out all of this information. Obviously, the email address that you enter should be attributable, because they are going to send you an email address that you have to activate in order to be able to get your API key. So once you fill out all this information, then you're going to click Join Us, and you're going to get an email from them, just like you've done in probably 100 other things you've signed up for, and you're going to activate your account. Once you do, your API key will be ready, and I'll show you what that's going to look like on the next slide. So when you get to the next slide, you're going to basically go to your user account, and your API key will be here. So I blocked mine out, so I'm not giving you my API key. So your API key will be displayed here. So copy and paste this into the starter script, and then you should be good to go, so that you can be able to use the API key for what we're going to do this week. So that's the first step in the process for this week. And then you'll have your own API key that you can use for other applications after you do this. And that's all you have to do, because in the virtual learning environment, the library that we're going to use has already been installed for you. So you can use the VLE in order to be able to do this. Or if you wanted to, you could install that library within your own personal machine if that's your preference for this particular assignment. This is how you would do this. If you wanted to install this on your own machine, you would go to pypi.org, and you would basically install the VirusTotal API on your local machine. You do not have to do that on the VLE. It should already be there for you. Okay. Any questions so far on what we're doing? Just kind of understanding the basics of what VirusTotal does, and the fact that you can access it interactively, or you can get the API like we're going to do, so we can build a Python application that will do this for us. Any questions? Has anybody applied for a VirusTotal API key before now? Anybody still there?
Yep, still here.
Great, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Just keep me honest here. I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. Okay, no questions. We're good, right? All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of give you a little demonstration now of how this will work. And you can kind of see by my screen, I've got multiple classes I'm teaching tonight, and I got all kinds of applications all over the place. So let me see if I can find the application for virus total example. Okay, so this is the one that I've provided you. And let me just go through this example, and then I probably have the one here that actually works that I can show you, or I think I put the demo up on D2L for you. So in this case, I'm using a couple of standard Python libraries that we're going to need in order to be able to do this. The first is JSON, because the information that comes back from virus total is a JSON basically structure. So since it gives us back this JSON structure, when we actually go out and get the answer, we can actually use JSON to dump the results and basically provide that. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So you're going to take your API key and you're going to put it into this string, replace the X's. So that's why I said copy and paste it directly into this area. So the other thing we need is the hash library, because when we submit, let's say, a file or a string, anything that we're trying to test, it all is based on a hash. In this case, we're going to be using an MD5 hash. And I've provided you a sample string to make sure that everything is working in your environment. So this is a test string that anybody can use to go basically test to see if that's going to give you some results. And what we have to do with that test string is we have to hash it, right? So we have to hash the contents and get back the hex digest. And once we do that, we're ready to basically submit that to VirusTotal in order to get a result back. So like in many other things that we've done, we're going to basically get a VirusTotal object by calling VirusTotal public API that was loaded here with your API key. So that's all you need to basically create the object that you're going to use in order to basically make the request. So once you're ready to make the request, once this is successful, you can say vt.getFileReport. So basically that's the function you're calling, getFileReport, and you're going to basically pass in that sample MD5 hex digest. And then once the response comes back, we can print the response out in order to be able to get the results, and it'll print out that information for us. So, so again, I'm providing you with the sample script to get you started, because you're going to do a little more with this than just dump the sample out, but you're going to actually process several files to see what the results come back. So any questions on this so far? We kind of got how this this API does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So all we have to do is call basically the couple of functions, one to get the API object for VirusTotal, and then use it to basically process an MD5 hash. Any questions? Okay, you guys are awful quiet tonight. Let me make sure that I've got an example here that I can show you with API key. Just want to make sure. Okay. So this is the same example, except my API key is above. So everything, nothing above has changed. Okay, so I'm going to actually clear this output down here. And I've set a breakpoint here just to kind of walk through this. But in this particular example, I'm going to be using my API key. So I'm going to go ahead and run the script. And when I run the script, it behaves nicely. I'm here. So this is the sample string that VirusTotal gives us so that we can test everything out and make sure that it's working. Remember, everything above this part of the script is exactly the same as the example that I showed you, with the exception of the fact that my API key is in that string. So I can get that sample. And you notice, just like we've done before, you notice when we actually have to hash something in Python, we have to basically provide a byte string, not a simple text string. So that's why it's B, quote, and all of that. You don't have to worry about that for what you're going to do, because you're going to be basically reading in the contents of a file and then basically producing that, and that will give you the byte string that you need. So then I'm going to actually get the hex digest, put my cursor over that. It's a standard MD5 hash that we're going to use. And then I'm going to basically get a VirusTotal object using my key. So I'm using VirusTotal public API. I'm going to get my VirusTotal object. So I have the object and now I can use it. So in this case, I'm going to say I want to get the file report for that sample MD5 that I have. And when I do that, I got a response, I hope. And I did. I've got a bunch of information. And now I can just use the JSON because it comes back as a JSON object is what, if you were to do type response above this, it would tell you what type that variable response is, and it would be a JSON object. When you hit go to print it out, it'll print out all the results from all of the people that have submitted information about this particular sample. So all of these organizations, BK, Lionic, Elastic, CMC, CAT, McAfee, Malwarebytes, and so on, all of those organizations have submitted results regarding this particular string that we've done and provided a variety of results. Since this is a test string, they could put whatever they wanted as far as the results. So the results will vary from vendor to vendor on how descriptive they are regarding the results that they provide you. That was the Semantic, this is Trend Micro, that's Kaspersky. So that's the results that we have, and you can just use the JSON dump function, JSON dumps. You're going to basically use the response that came back from VirusTotal. I decided not to sort the keys and did an indent to 4 so that it kind of looks sort of pretty when we print out the results of the JSON object. Any questions so far? Okay, cool. So based on that, what are you going to do? Well, if I go back to content for week 14, which I probably haven't enabled yet. I didn't. So let me do that right now to make sure that that's available to you. And make sure the assignment and the quiz are available. The lectures here, I'll post the video tomorrow. So for this week's assignment, what you're going to do is you're going to extract the files that are in this zip file that I provided you called scan files. Scan files has just a small set of files, a few of them. You can try some of your own if you want to. And you're going to basically process each one of those files. So what do I mean by that? Well, you're going to have to basically open each one of those files. You're going to have to basically perform a hash of the contents of the file, not the name, the contents of the file. And then you're going to submit that hash for the contents of the file to VirusTotal like we did with the sample. And then your script's going to generate a simple report with the results provided by VirusTotal for each of the files that you process. So you're going to need a loop in order to be able to loop over each of the files that are there that are within the scan files that I provided you. And then basically you're going to submit your script and the resulting report that was generated by the script, by your script, in order to basically show the results for each of the files that you're going to scan. Sound simple? Piece of cake, right?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so have some fun with this. Give you, if you had, I didn't get anybody saying that they already had done this before, had interfaced directly with VirusTotal in this manner. So remember, you'll have your VirusTotal key to take away with, and plus the script that you write. So if you ever get into a situation where you have a file that you're concerned about on your own system or whoever you work, you'll be able to take that file, hash it, and submit it to VirusTotal and get the results from all of these different vendors that basically have submitted results about that particular file, specifically the file hash you submitted. So this is not one and done and throw away. This is a piece of code that you can use from an investigative perspective, or just to evaluate files that you might be concerned about, within your own environment or in the environment that you might be working in. Okay, so that should all be enabled for you. I'll post the video tomorrow. what's it, processes, and you'll have that if you want to go back over it. So any final questions? If not, I'm going to give you like 30 minutes of your life back tonight, but we covered a lot. So any questions about this or anything else that you might be concerned about? Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, oh wait, I might have got one in here. Seems easy enough. Okay, all right, well, have some fun with this. Elizabeth, you here, is any questions that have come up for you on this assignment in the past or anything else that you might want to throw into the mix here?
I think for this assignment, kind of like what you were saying, make sure you read the contents of the file, not just like the title of the files, because that's what you're going to be using to hash for this assignment. Because you don't want to just get a string, that's going to be the wrong string you're going to be using for hashing.
Correct. Yep, we've seen that before. A couple of folks that just basically took the file name and basically hashed the file name and not the contents of the file, and that's certainly not going to be in the VirusTotal database. That's there. Remember, the VirusTotal database is massive and it's updated all the time, constantly by all these companies. So it's a really great resource for us, in Violent Python. This is something we do all the time to basically evaluate files that are in our environment and our system. So keep that in mind. This is a great resource and a great tool to be able to use in order to be able to investigate potential pieces of malware that, and they could be new. The piece of malware could have come out yesterday and somebody will already have a signature for it and post it to VirusTotal, and then you'll be able to find it. So this is kind of a really important piece of technology that everybody uses. And now you'd have the ability to interface to it from the Python API. So you have a script that can actually do this for you. So great. So have some fun with this. And we will be having a Python tutoring session on Saturday and office hours on Tuesday. So if you run into anything, touch base with us there. Otherwise, have a good night, everybody, and have a good day.
Thanks a lot, folks.